Alright, Tess is out, testing is done, and the verdict is very clear. If you play Hush, you need to get Tess. Whatever you have to do, sell your kidney if you have to, you need Tess. I'm not going to go over all of her skills because there are much fancier YouTubers who do that sort of stuff. Maybe I'll put a link in the description if they've got videos up when this goes up. But I am going to talk about the skills that make a huge difference for Hush. So the big one is probably her ultimate, but we're going to save that for last. Her support skill, if you hit somebody with thermal damage after using her support skill, it burns them for 10 seconds. Now let me explain what burn does for Hush. If you have lava bones at T2, her signature weapon, you do an additional 40% damage to anything that is burning. However, if you're ulting, like you use your support skill to burn the enemy and then you ult, that burn's only there for 5 seconds, which means the back end of your ult, which can be like typically 8 to 10 seconds, the back end isn't going to have that burning bonus. Now with Tess, it does. And also crucially for Sarter, this allows you to apply the burn on him by using your ultimate. You don't have to use your support skill, which means he doesn't get stunned, he doesn't fall down and then teleport away. And on top of that, if you have M3 Hush, when your ult hits a burning target, you recover 0.3 U energy. Your ult hits 10 times a second, so that's 3 U energy per second. Like if you see me ulting a target, in the first 4 seconds when the ult isn't draining energy, my U energy is actually going up. And while this might not sound huge on paper, it adds a couple of extra seconds to the end of your ult. It says the damage ramps up over time. The few seconds at the end do as much damage as like the first 4 seconds themselves. With Tess, since you've got 10 seconds of burning, you're getting that U energy regen for the entire beam, which means you're adding more seconds to your ult, which means you're adding huge damage to the end of it. Now the skill that we're all really excited about, Tess's ultimate, is very good for Hush. However, it is very good if you are building up to then do a single ultimate, because at the end of it, it drains all of your U energy. Well, not really drains, it just poof, disappears. So if you're in the middle of an ult, and then that happens, your ult just ends. So it lasts for 25 seconds. You have to make sure that within that time, you get to whatever energy threshold you're trying to get to, and you start ulting with enough time left over that you finish before her ult finishes. So it's very, very good for hitting single beams. But in the case of Sarter, where you're trying to do a minimum of 3 beams, it's a little bit tricky to get it to work. Now Tess does have some relevant manifestations for Hush. However, I pulled 1 Tess and 2 copies of her weapon, and I'm flat out, you boys broke, so I'm not going to be able to test that. However, I can tell you what it does. Her M3 will allow her follow-up shots from her ultimate to be triggered off of skill damage. So you can use your ultimate, and while you're using it, she'll just pop up and generate some U energy for you every now and then, meaning you're adding more seconds to your ult, meaning you're adding way more damage to the end. But you also have to look out for her M5. It applies the effects of her support skill immediately after ulting, but that means that if you shoot someone with thermal damage after using her ult in order to build up your U energy, that's going to apply her burn, but she only allows you to do that once per operative. And if using her support skill does not refresh this. So if you're using Hush and you're trying to use your ultimate to apply that 10-second burn, you're going to have to use somebody else to do the shooting to generate U energy so that you don't trigger the burn before you actually ult her. Or you can just stop at M4 and not have to worry about that. So as I said earlier, Tess is very good at single beam fights. So I went to test her in the tactical evaluation chapter 10. The boss there is Gavin. He's very fun to bully. I did a run with my old team first to kind of establish a baseline, and then did a bunch of runs with Tess to kind of figure out how she worked until I finally clicked. So I'll just show those here, and then we'll look at doing starter with Tess.
Don't rush me. I've only just finished debugging it. Why do these guns auto-load? Does nobody think about these things? I got you. Raise the pressure. Raise the temperature!
So with the old team, it took about 40 seconds to build up 120 U energy. Then ulting Gavin peaked at about 14,000 damage a tick. So now let's look at the new team. I'm running the same stuff on Hush herself, but on Acacia Kaguya, I had her running Amarna for a little bit of an attack boost, but I found that I just don't need that damage boost with all the damage boost that I'm getting from Tess. So I switched Kaguya over to Phantom Squad to increase the full squad's U energy recovery. Then on Tess, I'm running her, look, I can't pronounce her logistics team. It's the one from the event. It's very good. And then I have Tess with her T2 weapon, which is also going to give a huge damage bonus on ultimate.
Are you sure I'm your best choice? Why do these guns auto-load? Does nobody think about these things? Honestly, I've practiced. Raise the pressure. Raise the temperature! Critical effectiveness in combat varies based on height difference with opponent.
So with the new team, I built 140 U energy in 20 seconds, and then hit about a 17k peak on my ultimate. And now when Gavin rises into the air, even if you have the defense shred on him from Kaguya, it falls off while he's in the air, and then it'll come back when he falls down. So in other runs where I intentionally missed the ultimate until he landed again, I saw a 20k peak with the new team. But here he just unfortunately died before that happened. So new team's pretty good. Now let's try it with starter. Like I said before, Tess is best at single beam fights, and starter is a triple beam fight. It can get kind of awkward if you use her ultimate to build U energy for the first phase, and then it ends too late, she'll sap all of your energy going into the second phase, which means that you don't get to ult him as soon as he lands. You have to put up with whatever he does, and it ends up taking longer. So I tried ulting at the start of the fight, I tried ulting at the end of the fight, and ultimately, start of the fight is the best way, but you have to ult the instant you drop in. So you want to time the end of the first phase to be about 25 seconds to coincide with Tess's ult. If you trigger the end of the first phase faster than that, you're not going to have time to build U energy because it's going to disappear in the middle of you building it. Then you build U energy off of the clones going into the second phase, which is, you're going to have Tess on field for this. She has very high U energy generation. And then once again, from second to third phase, you're building all of your U energy off of the clones.
一人前のマジシャンはいつだって準備万端 What are these guns with the nose? 本日のラッキーさんは君だ Okay. Raise the pressure. Raise the temperature! ギミックのメータがまだ 本日のラッキーさんは Okay. Raise the pressure. Raise the temperature! ギミックのメータがまだ You sure on your best feet? Okay. 本日のラッキーさんは君だ Raise the pressure. Raise the temperature! Fuchsia's effectiveness in combat varies based on height difference with opponents. That's my 10,000 steps for the day.
So just a few notes on that fight. Previously, I warned that if in the third phase, he'll lock you in place and you can't use support skills. If you use a support skill as he's trying to lock you in place, and so it lands on the operative that's just doing their support skill, it will break when they switch back out. So I use that here so that I have a little bit of extra time to build U energy and can still get my support skills off and then activate the ultimate. At the end of the day, it's only a couple seconds faster than the previous team. However, this is the absolute worst case for Tess. It does not get worse than starter, which is why I was so disappointed to see him this week. So I'll be back next week with whatever boss shows up. I honestly can't wait to see Tess at her best.